Hello everybody, this is Chaos with Chaos Esports Productions, bringing you a replay from the Invitational that was put on by No Dice Gaming. This is going to be one of the games from the finals. We have CMRevival going up against Innovation, definitely the most epic series that I've casted, probably in my entire casting career, but today we're going to be taking a look at kind of some of the nuances that Revival kind of reveals to us and kind of get some perspective on what people should be thinking about in the ZvT matchup and how they should be approaching kind of the early to mid game. Because I know one thing that I tend to focus on in my Bronze Masters League series is very specific builds. Here's what I'm going to do. And I think there are some things that Revival shows us that it's like, you might want to take into consideration placement of overlords and just kind of some of the several nuances that he has. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We're already going to talk about one that we just barely missed. The extractor went down at the 10 supply mark, and basically what this does is by getting the extractor, you're able to build a drone and then cancel the extractor and kind of go over supply. The reason why people do that is because you have a period of time when your overlord is being built where you're not really able to build any drones and your larva is slowly increasing, and there's a chance that you get to your 3 larvae before the overlord finishes. And basically by being able to build that drone, you're able to continually spawn larvae over the kind of over and over and over again and not ever have any lull time. Because obviously once you have 3 larvae, your hatchery can't gain any more. And since it can't gain any more, if you don't do anything or don't build any units in that period of time, you won't gain any more larvae, which means you missed out on a unit that you could have built. And it kind of spirals out like that. So things that very, very small nuance in that early game. I did notice in pretty much every single game that Revival played, he actually went ahead and did that. Just with 1, not with 2. Some people will do like two extractors to build 2 drones. I think the 1 is probably the better of the 2 options. So now we're going to look at his overlord placement. Now, a lot of times what I tend to do is I tend to throw my overlord kind of in the back of my opponent's base, so that way I can just let him walk in with as an overseer and kind of get an idea. But Revival actually goes straight for the ramp of his opponent. Now, what's really cool about this is you got 2 different things. One, you get a really good idea of when your opponent's command center is going to be going down, as we see it already having gone down now. And then also you get the opportunity to see what your opponent's doing as far as his build. Obviously, a lot of Terran players nowadays have been going for that Reaper expand style. So by putting the Overlord here, you can 1, scout and see the Reaper from coming out, and 2, figure out how many he's gonna be building. And then on top of that, you'll immediately see the factory if it does get planted down for that reactor Hellion style, and we'll immediately know kind of the follow-up that you're expecting. So at this point, Revival just kind of back at home, droning up, getting up his defenses and trying to deal with all this fun little harassment that these Reapers are dealing with. And at this point, he's just happily droning. I mean, he's getting up his speed. He's leaving 1 guy in gas. That is going to be for banelings and then potentially roaches as things get along. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a sec once we get kind of closer to the mid-game. But yeah, he's just happily droning up, not really feeling too much pressure. Is going to go ahead and get out a handful more links. And this is actually going to be really, really cool because he actually gets these lings out to set up a nice little flank once his speed gets done. So now that the Reapers have kind of gone, we're happily sending our Queen out to do a little bit of checking out to make sure that there's no Reapers out kind of sitting out in this area. Going to go ahead and take that expansion and get the creep going over. So now that speed's finished, we're going to go ahead. He goes ahead and sends his lings over to kind of the 3rd base just to check on that 3rd base and whether or not that timing is going to be really, really early, because in the series, actually, Innovation pretty much always went for a 3 command center before his starport. So just kind of a very particular build that Innovation was going with. But at this point, he's going to go ahead and get up his 3rd queen, just 1 for the creep spread, and then obviously when he's got Hellions and stuff at his door, he can obviously defend. Now he's got to be a little bit careful because with only 2 queens, you can get a third, which honestly, depending on how your playstyle is, a third might actually be a little bit better. And actually, once you see that your opponent's Hellions and Reapers are already out on the field, you can immediately send your nice little flank that's already set up, especially on this map. This map is really, really good for Zerg, in my opinion. So he's going to just be focusing on defending. Now, he did go ahead and go straight for his Roach Warren, so he can get out a bunch of Roaches here very, very shortly. And unfortunately, these queens are going to get cleaned up because Innovation, Macro King, just gonna continue on, being a nuisance. But with the Roaches popping out, there's not really a whole lot Innovation can do because Hellions and Reapers versus Roaches don't really do a whole lot. So another nice thing to note is by putting your Overlord in this position, you actually get a full idea of, okay, he's obviously starting to build up his defenses and get some things done. Oh, and then there's this really, really interesting instance. So Revival saw that the Hellions were coming in for another attempt to get into the drones. He immediately builds an Evo chamber in the mineral line, basically to block off the Hellions from getting physically into the mineral line, and then is able to build a couple of Evo chambers kind of in the back to fully block off these Reapers and Hellions from actually getting in, which is a really, really top-notch move. And now with the Roaches kind of reinforcing, he really can't do anything. And basically, once these Roaches get in here and clean this up, he's pretty much going to be a-okay to go ahead and cancel the Evo chambers and be good to go. So meanwhile, he is going to also go ahead and get his third base. So you can see that he's gotten a lot of information from, even just a little bit of positioning of these Overlords. He's kept an eye on when the harassment's going to happen, and now he's able, now that entire attack got cleaned up, he's like, well, he is either going to be, if he's focusing on getting his economy up, he's going to already have a third base and be thinking about taking it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of counter pressure. So Roaches are going to go straight across the field, and actually he's going to go ahead and wait. He's not going to... There are 2 things you can do with this. You can send the Roaches immediately in and potentially completely catch your opponent off guard. Obviously, if he hasn't been macroing up very well and, there isn't a whole lot of units here, you can get in here no problem with all these Roaches and be good to go. But instead, Revival actually wants to go ahead and give a Baneling Bust a try, because at this point it's like your opponent has lost all of his map presence, which means he's either going to be focusing on getting up his intended army, or he's going to be focused on getting up his economy. So at this point, Banelings are going to go in, and actually he's going to go ahead and send them to target the bunker down. Bunker will go down as quickly as possible, and actually a lot of SCVs get killed in this engagement. So, he's just in a really, really good position to just continue on the pressure. And, at this point, it's kind of like Innovation's in a really, really tough spot just because, he doesn't have a whole lot of units at home. Obviously, he's got the buildings and stuff in nice positions to minimize the amount of surface area that the Zerg units can get. But, he's put himself into, he's kind of in a pickle at this point. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pause it here, because this is kind of the small nuances that led up to this point are really the key factor in what decided this game. I mean, both players played excellently. And not to give Innovation any, he is an excellent player. I mean, it was just very well executed by Revival. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, when the timings were, and what he had to be aware of, and that was the key to him getting this last victory. So just to kind of recap, first things first. Obviously, we had the small little extractor trick, which is a nice little trick that I might start to incorporate myself. I'm still kind of weighing the odds, but I think that will probably end up being something that I do finally incorporate. And then Overlord placement. Overlord placement, very, very crucial. By getting that Overlord over at your opponent's ramp, you get so much information. You get an idea of whether or not he's going to be doing something very aggressive. Obviously, also, if you don't see anything here, could mean that you're potentially looking at some cheese, as far as like a 2 racks or things like that. So very, very good there. And then also, one thing to note that I forgot to mention is by seeing him go for a reactor, the reactor Hellion follow-up, you know that the tendency is to stay on a couple of Reapers, couple of Hellions, and then continue on getting Hellions for a good period of time to try and get some damage, minimize creep and stuff. But Revival was actually able to capitalize on this and actually get a really, really good Overlord spread. I mean, if we look at his vision, I mean, his entire side of the map is more or less covered. He doesn't have to worry about any type of aggression because we're not in that stage of the game where he's got to be dealing with Marines out on the field. So just very, very good execution and, yeah, just very, very keen play. I didn't actually go down and write through the entire build order just because there's a lot of stuff going on, and I think as far as execution is concerned, I think more of the mechanical things as far as the setup of that early game is kind of the crucial points that I wanted to make in this video. I might do another video that's maybe specifically talks about the build order, or maybe my next ZvT I'll actually give the build order a try and see what happens with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this nice little cast of the Innovation versus Revival game. Like I said, it was absolutely epic. We had about 2,900 people watching this live when it was live on Saturday. So for those of you who did come out and watch me, I hope you guys enjoyed the casting as well as the video. It was just absolutely epic. So yeah, feel free to leave any comments, concerns, or questions down in the comment sections below. I'd be more than happy if you got something more specific about things that are going on here. I'd be more than happy to go back into the replay and maybe get any furthering questions that you might have. So feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm definitely looking forward to potentially doing more videos of pro players and kind of the nuances that they tend to bring to the table. Not to say that they're 100% always going to be like, this is what you should do on the ladder. It just gives you some perspective and things to think about as you improve your playstyle and get through the game. So feel free if you want to go ahead and hit that subscriber button down in the lower left-hand corner. I'll be coming out with more videos like this because I now have a huge library of games that I can pull from and kind of walk through some of the build orders and stuff. So if you did enjoy, feel free to go ahead and hit that like button. If you got friends who are learning Zerg and want to see, give them some tips and tricks about their openings, feel free to share with your friends on Facebook and Twitter. It's all greatly appreciated. And I think that's all I've got. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next game.